Hiya Paul, great to meet up with you at the range and do some further work on your game. This is a really productive session. I put some keynotes up there on the top right for you of things that you've got to try and work on between now and when I get you next. And it was all about the sequencing of your moves from P4 to P6 really, and your ability to get back into flexion. You made some really good changes in the backswing. Arms are coming in much better, hands are coming in much better. Right leg straightening in a much more appropriate manner. Position at P4 is much tighter, much more on plane. You can see there the right side is extended, so we've got that extension. Remember what we talked about, the extension is in the whole of the body. It's the right ankle, the right knee, the right hip, as well as the thoracic. So it's not just the player extending the spine, the whole of that right side is extending for you. So what you've got to try and do now is get the whole of that right side back into flexion by P6 or slightly before, but we're going to say P6 just for some clarity on your part. So you can see here Charlie Wee's going to get to P4, everything straightening up, ankles extended, hips have extended, spine's extended. Now what's going to happen is in the early part of the swing, Charlie's going to get the knee and the hips back into flexion by P5. So you can see there now, P4 to P5, right knee and the hips get back into the redress flex. P5 to P6, upper body back into its address flex. And as a result, there's a slight, excuse me, get the correct graphic on. That flexing forward has encouraged the hips to start to rotate. Remember when we discussed the sort of weekend hacker, the guy who slices it the most, really struggles to get the ball up in the air and any power. He's going to flex forward from P4 to P6, but then stay in flexion. And what we see with that player is a hip action where the hips clear very quickly and the weight falls back. Now we don't want that, but we do have to get some rotation in there. If we look at the start of your session, you were coming out of the ground too quickly and you were struggling with compression on the golf ball and getting the shaft to lean forward at impact. We're coming out of the ground too quick, really, because we don't flex forward. We don't go into the ground. It's not that you're coming up too soon. I mean, the coming up is fine. The pushing up off the ground is an essential part of the golf swing. However, we've got to go down into the ground first. And that's what we're seeing with Charlie Wee here. From P4 to P5, P6, Charlie's going down back into the ground, getting back into flexion. Now from P6 and onwards, he can start to push up off the ground. Now with yourself, P4 to P5, we don't get back into flexion, certainly not with a lower body. P5 to P6, we start to get the thoracic back into flexion. You can see this sort of curvature in the spine that you're creating here. And now we start to push up, but there's just nothing to push up with. So we get this tucked appearance. So the feel or what we're looking for is a player getting back into flexion with the right knee and the pelvis by P5, getting back into flexion with the whole of the upper body by P6, superposition that, and then the feeling then is to just go to your impact position from that flex forward. Now if I just do that for you quickly, you can see the difference there. Now yeah, that's posed, but you can see already that the hips have started to clear. And that's the position you've been looking for, that squatting down look as you start the transition, and that clearing of the hips at P7, which is what you're seeing here with Charlie Wee. So the feel and the sequence is from P4 to P5. We want to get the right knee and the pelvis back into its address flex. See there you're going into the ground. From P5 to P6, we want to get the upper body back into its address flex. And there are the feels and the sequences. So P4 to P5. Get the knees and the hips back into the address flex. This is also going to help the club or the shaft steepen slightly during the downswing and keep the club on the desired plane. So P4 to P5, back into the address flex. P5 to P6, thoracic back into its address flex. And then from P6 onwards, the extension kicks in. You know what to do to extend, Paul. You've absolutely no problem extending whatsoever. This is one of your swings towards the end of your session. Nice P4. Certainly getting back into that flex a little bit more by P5. Pushing down into the ground. Much better looking P6. And there's that cleared. Flex left knee. Shaft leaning forward look that you've been after at impact, as opposed to hips tucking underneath, no clearance of the hips whatsoever, shaft just getting dumped as you come through. So I'm just going to get rid of those lines for you. Get rid of the other screens. Just let you take a look at those two swings side by side as a comparison. Much better. Key thought, getting the knee and the hip back into flexion by P5 and then letting it go from the massively improved position. That how much more clearance you've got. Super. Still things in there to tidy up, mate, and I'm sure we will as the months progress, but that's a big improvement for you. I'm just going to freeze that impact position for you because that's something you've been working hard on to achieve over the past few years, really, and you now start to see the benefit and the reward of working things in the correct order. Good luck with it. Have a great Christmas. I look forward to working with you again in 2013. Well done.